Hi everyone, good evening. Welcome to today's presentation on seniors awareness. My name is Isabel Okoye, and we will be discussing part 3 of this series, which is on seeking help and supporting others. So if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. If you have been following the past 2 sessions, thank you for joining. And before I proceed, I'd like to remind you all that this is a learning series that is being presented by GIM Legal Learning Centre on seniors support and empowerment. For the past 3 weeks, this is the third week, I've been talking about seniors and mental health awareness. A couple of weeks ago, we ran a workshop on digital literacy for seniors. And in the next couple of weeks, we'll be running another learning series on financial empowerment for seniors. So this is a program that's being sponsored by the Government of Canada's New Horizons for Seniors program, and we're very appreciative to them for sponsoring this learning series. So before I proceed, I'm going to give a quick recap on the past 2 presentations, part 1 and part 2. So I mentioned that seniors now live longer. People are living longer. There are a large percentage or proportion of the world and the society, including here in Canada, that are above the age of 65. The ratio of older to younger is actually decreasing. So there are more older people compared to the ratio of older people to younger people is smaller compared to years ago when there were less elderly people compared to younger people. And because of this, obviously, they are playing a role, seniors are playing a role in the workforce, staying in their jobs longer, not retiring as early as they used to, and also contributing to their family lives. But with aging comes mental health concerns such as depression, anxiety, dementia, loneliness, substance use, and these need targeted support. And that's what we talked about in part 1. And then in part 2 last week, we talked about the risk factors associated with developing mental illnesses as you age, and it could be isolation, grief, and chronic illnesses. And to circumvent these are protective factors such as maintaining social connections with your family, with your friends, having a purpose, engaging in physical activity, eating healthily, having a good work-life balance, a well-balanced life, eating a balanced diet, getting enough sleep. So today we're going to be looking at, what do we do? We now know that seniors are living longer. We know the risk factors and we know the protective factors. So how do we seek help in as a senior? What should one do to obtain help to enhance their mental wellness? And how can we support seniors? You might not be a senior, you might be a senior and you want to support yourself and you want to support others. You want to contribute to improving the mental health of other seniors. So what do you do? What do you do about that? And that's what we're going to discuss in the next a few minutes that we have to look at part 3 this evening. So we should always talk about mental health. It's not a topic that we should shy away from. Let's start these conversations. If you're a senior or if you have a family member who is a senior, don't shy away with discussing, talking about mental health, their mental health, but start these conversations, be empathetic, listen without judgment, normalize seeking help. Don't make it sound like it's something serious, that is something uncommon. By all means, we have to talk about mental health, which is one of the goals of this seniors awareness program. We have to start these conversations, and we can't be judgmental about them. We have to put ourselves in the shoes of people who have these issues, and we have to find ways of find solutions to these issues. So I have created a couple of scenarios because I know that where we come from different families, and as seniors, we're probably some of us may be experiencing different ways or different risk factors that can actually propagate mental illness. So I'd like to I've created a couple of scenarios on how we can address this. Say we have a loved one who's a senior, or we have a friend, we're seniors and we have another friend who is a senior that's beginning to encounter these issues. So the first scenario is, what if you know someone who is experiencing loneliness? How would we address this? So the context here, a senior expresses feeling isolated after losing a spouse, for instance. So what do? You can listen actively, by all means, validate their emotions, and then suggest social engagement. So you can start the dialogue by stating something along these lines. I'm really sorry you've been feeling this way. Would you be open to joining a local group or having regular calls with your family? So this is one way in which you can approach the issue. By all means, listen actively. Listen, sometimes they don't even want you to offer advice. They just want somebody there to listen to the way they feel. And by all means, do not try to invalidate their emotions. Do not try to interject or try and rationalize what they're going through. Instead, validate how they're feeling and then suggest ways in which they can begin to build, connect with other people, connect with their family, join a group of, people of a similar age or similar interests. Another scenario could be, maybe you're a senior who is struggling with physical activity, or you have a parent or a grandparent or a friend who is struggling with keeping fit because, say, they have pains, they have arthritis, their knees hurt, they can't walk very far, they can't climb the stairs. What do? And they're reluctant to engage in any kind of physical activity. So you can encourage them gently, you can offer alternatives, and by all means, continue to demonstrate empathy. So you can say something along the lines of, I understand that it's tough with the pain. I know some people say, oh, you have to push through the pain. You just ignore the pain, push through. But it's not as easy as, one could make it out to be. And if you don't experience that pain, you don't have the right to assume that the person is able to push through the pain. You have to be empathetic. You have to demonstrate that you understand that what they're going through is tough. And you can suggest alternatives, like instead of saying, okay, why don't you go for a walk? Why don't you go for a run? Why don't you do squats? You can suggest that they try something that is gentle, like chair yoga, for instance, or going for, a walk with a friend, which might help ease the stiffness. So by all means, try and encourage physical activity, but try and encourage the senior to engage in a physical activity that they find comfortable. They know their bodies, they know what they could do. Even if they say, okay, a 5-minute walk, and then they can build their stamina as time goes by. So the next scenario is, suppose, somebody who is suffering from a bereavement, going through grief. How do you do that? So assuming you know a senior who has recently lost a close friend and is beginning to withdraw socially. They don't want to hang out with anybody. They don't answer any calls. You just notice that there's a change in their demand, the Miano. You just notice that there's a change in the way they communicate. One thing that we can do is to be that a compassionate presence, offer support resources. And it's true that sometimes they don't want to see anybody, but if you're able to establish trust with the person, if that person, has recognized you as somebody that they can trust, you can actually, start a dialogue with them. Don't tiptoe around them, but try and engage with them and say, it's okay to grieve. Don't try and say to them, oh, snap out of it. Oh, it's been 2 years. You need to, start your life all over again. By all means, try and validate the way they feel. Instead, let them know that you're there for them. Let them know that, there are support groups that can help them feel less alone. Try and find ways of starting dialogue that is empathetic, that, meets them at their point of grief. What about seniors that feel that they've lost their purpose and no longer want to engage with the outside world, with society? They feel they no longer have a role in society. These are people that have retired, probably retired, or forced to retire because of, they're no longer strong as they used to be. They're suffering from a mental illness. They're unable to carry out those duties that they used to take for granted. What we could do, the role play for what we could focus in a role play scenario is actually to affirm their value and suggest meaningful activities like providing them with information on volunteering, restoring the pride that they have in themselves, in their achievements. They might be maybe somebody who has spent decades teaching, or decades being a medic, or decades being an engineer, or any profession. By all means, tell them, you have so much wisdom to share. Would you consider volunteering, going into schools, telling students about your story, going into youth groups, telling them, how, your experience in your profession, giving back to the community by, being that voice of wisdom, that voice of experience. In that way, you're able to promote purpose and engagement in seniors. And there will be seniors that are actually resistant to change, resistant to help. They might feel, oh, they don't need help. Nothing's wrong with them. They feel, oh, I'm going to snap out of it. Just give me time. When you come to them and give them information and say, oh, there are resources out there where you can receive support and counseling, they probably don't want to listen to you. And this happens a lot. And by all means, try not to force them to listen to you. Try not to force them to get help. Instead, respect their autonomy. Respect the fact that, they're still, but they might be seniors, but they're not brainless. They know what they want. They know, respect their space. But by all means, try and persuade them gently to reduce that stigma, because some people actually, some seniors, they actually feel ashamed that they're actually going through loneliness. They're going through, they're feeling isolated. They're losing their memory. They're not as active. They want to be active, but they can't be as active as they used to be. And they're actually feeling bad about it. And they actually don't even want to ask for help. So by all means, tell them that there's no need to feel the way that they're feeling. And instead, what they could do is they could talk to somebody. They could, they could start small. They don't have to go to some big session with a lot of people. They might just want something that is one-on-one, and you can actually introduce them to, tell them to take it like one session out at a time. Not, don't get them into it like in a way that they feel overwhelmed. So I've created all these scenarios that you could give someone who is experiencing loneliness, experiencing grief, being reluctant to receive help, experiencing pain, and they're reluctant to carry out any physical activity. And there are support systems in place in primary care, in the society, in the community, such as family doctors. There are community programs out there. There's online therapy in there. I know there are designated clinics that provide, pain and support for chronic pain, support for pain in the feet, like even osteopaths, podiatrists, all these experts that can actually provide support for the various challenges that seniors face. And because this program is being presented in the in Brant County, I've actually provided a few resources on providers in this area. So the next couple of slides, I'm just going to walk you through some of the resources and services that are dedicated to senior care in this area. So I have provided some resources. I just realized that I was muted. Sorry about that. So there are a couple of websites that I've cited here for mental health and grief support. So one of them is sorry, some of these websites, I'm just going back, I'm going to ahead, yeah. So comprehensive medical health services, so such as the Canadian Mental Health Association, they actually provide broad mental health services and community programs supporting seniors in Brant. And I've provided the details of the website. So by all means, if anybody wants these details, I can actually provide these after the talk. You can also, Brant Mental Health Solutions is actually one of the private counseling services in this area for individuals across all ages, not just seniors. And also we have the Seniors Outreach and Psychiatry unit at St. Joseph's Life Care Centre that provides home visits and geriatric psychiatry to support senior mental health needs. And also there is bereavement and trauma support provided at the Stedman Community Hospice and the Couch Counseling Centre. And here are the details of both websites. So by all means, if you're interested in getting this information, I can post them in the chat afterwards, or you can reach out to me by email and I'll send them to you. There's also information here on websites for chronic illness and social engagement. So such as chronic illness support. So there are websites like the Brant Pain Relief Clinic that offers specialized pain management resources for chronic conditions such as arthritis and chronic pain from diseases such as cancer. There are also health and aging resources provided by the Brant County Health Unit, and they provide information on fall prevention and also chronic illness awareness. And there are also social and recreational programs that are provided at community centres, such as the Bradford Seniors Resource Centre. And there's also Mary Maxim as well that holds a club for over 50s on a weekly basis. There are also other age-friendly community initiatives, such as the Grand River Council on Aging that promotes social participation and age-friendly programs that enhance senior well-being. So we've talked about these resources. And we've talked about the scenarios that we can, the scenarios and how we can deal with different challenges that seniors in our lives experience. But we should also come to the realization that mental illness is still a stigma in a lot of societies in this country and in other countries and in different cultures as well. And this slide just tells us that shame, it actually shouldn't be a symptom of mental illness. No one should be ashamed of having mental wellness challenges. Part of this presentation and part of this learning series is actually to advocate against the shame that is associated with mental illness. So what do we do about, how do we prevent these stigmas that the stigmas surrounding mental health in seniors and people from other ages? So we need to educate communities, which is what we're doing through this course. You have to educate communities about the signs, about the risk factors, about the protective factors. There are lots of programs like ours that are being run, not just in Brant, but in other parts of the province. And by all means, if you are a senior or a senior, or you would like to run a course yourself, there are opportunities for doing so. And they say knowledge is power. So we all have to make the effort to, as you might not be a senior, but you get there one day. So it's important that we actually take the steps to get that information. So when the time comes, you're equipped to deal with the challenges that you face. Something else seniors can do is share personal stories, join a group, join if you have friends that are of the same age, some people are privileged to have friends who, they grew up with and they still maintain a connection with, share your personal stories, share the challenges that you're going through, you might share tips on how you are managing the symptoms of a chronic illness that you might be going through. You can share tips on your eating habits, on your exercise habits, how you keep fit, how you promote good sleep, hygiene, and so on and so forth. They say a problem shared is a problem halved. So by all means, share your personal stories with other seniors and even with family members. Create safe spaces. So, by all means, look for a community and foster that community. Know your safe space, know those whom you trust, having people that you're able to discuss your challenges with, it actually contributes to mental wellness. And also, and I think this is my last slide, all of us have a part to play in fostering mental wellness in seniors, whether it's our family members, whether it's ourselves, whether it's our friends. By all means, if you have a family member, do check in with them regularly, because it's through checking in with them that you're able to notice the signs associated with developing a mental health condition. And also be an ally. If you're a younger person, or even if you're a senior, be an ally for seniors' rights. Advocate for better services, advocate for day centers for seniors groups, for accessibility for seniors in say at bus stations, in the church, in even in the grocery store, raise awareness about elder abuse and so on. And by all means, share resources. And I cannot overemphasize the need to get educated. Whether you're a senior or not, we will all be seniors one day, and we need to prepare for the challenges that come with getting older. I do know that there are a lot of things out there, there are medical advances that are preventative, but there's so much that we can do, and at the end of the day, age catches up with us. People die, our loved ones will die. And we need to be prepared for that. We need to be prepared for the loneliness that will emanate from losing a loved one. We have to be prepared for grief. We have to be prepared for isolation, for even ageism that, comes from working longer, staying in the workforce, or even the challenges that come with, being a senior in the workforce, undergoing these challenges, and yet you still need to work because maybe you can't afford to retire, or you don't want to retire and you want to continue to be active. You have to be prepared to look after yourself, to prevent those chronic illnesses, to look after your diet, to maintain a healthy lifestyle. That's all very important. So by all means, the call for action is not just for seniors. It's not just for people that have grandparents or family members, but it's for everybody, because at the end of the day, we want our seniors to be healthy. We don't want that stress on the economy, on our healthcare system. So by all means, the call for action is for everybody. And I'd like to use this opportunity to ask for questions at this point. If you have any questions, by all means, write it in the chat or raise your hand, and I would once more like to acknowledge the GIM Legal and Learning Centre that presented this Senior Support and Empowerment course, and the New Horizons for Seniors program funded by the Government of Canada for the grant that we received for running this course, as well as the other ones that we have run and yet to run. So yeah, thank you very much for listening, and I will welcome any questions at this point. Any questions? Okay, thank you. Someone is asking for more information on how they can advocate for seniors in their community. So as I mentioned, you can be an ally for seniors in your community. You can support age-friendly policies. You can promote inclusive programs. You can raise awareness about issues like elder abuse, loneliness, and access to care. Those are ways in which you can advocate for seniors in your community. Any more questions? Someone is saying, what role does language play in being a supportive ally? Yes, that is very important, because a lot of people, especially younger people, they address seniors in a condescending way. And I know seniors do not like that. By all means, use respectful, use empowering languages that that enforces that avoids stereotypes, that avoids infantilizing seniors, treating them like they're babies, that they can't speak up for themselves. Nobody likes to be treated like, they don't have a voice. They have a voice, they have a wealth of experience. By all means, avoid talking about seniors as if they're children. Instead, speak with them, not for seniors. Okay, someone's asking how they can help a senior maintain a sense of purpose. That's a very good question. So encourage them to share their stories. I talked about that earlier on. Encourage them to share their stories. A lot of seniors have a wealth of experience. They have seen, they've been through a lot. They've worked for decades. They can mentor young people. They can mentor younger people, and they can actually teach hobbies like knitting. They can teach hobbies like building, um, mending. They might not have, they might not be able enough to carry heavy lifting. Well, it depends on the age, because they're seniors that are still quite strong. So there are things that they can do. They're very good at repairing cars. There are ways in which seniors can volunteer. I guess it's about listening to their story and actually letting them know, or showing them opportunities where they can contribute their expertise. Yes, this is a very good question. What should one do if a senior resists help or support? Yeah, by all means, do not force them to do what they don't want to do. I know sometimes I've heard in a lot of families where children complain, oh, my dad doesn't want to go and seek help. My mom doesn't want to admit that she's not okay. By all means, respect their autonomy, but gently offer options and then validate their feelings without judgment. Building trust is the very first step. You need to build trust. Any more questions? What do we do when seniors do not appreciate your assistance? I guess it's about being patient and being compassionate at the same time, and I guess it's about being gentle and actually engaging them where they might not want assistance with something, but they want assistance. They might not ask for it directly, but they might ask for it indirectly. I guess it's about recognizing their strengths at that time, recognize their strengths and tap into those strengths. How important is it to share our mental health challenges with employers? Yes, a lot of people are worried about sharing their mental health and they fear that that would be that the employers might use that as ammunition against them. And their fears are real, by all means, do not invalidate any such fears. And I know that a lot of companies now, they promote mental well-being. They provide counselors and programs. And I think there's a day that is dedicated to mental health awareness. So I think asking for time off, going to HR, even if you can't go to your boss directly, but if you go to HR and say, I need time I need time off. I'm suffering from burnout. Um, Obviously, if you've encountered grief or you've encountered the loss of a loved one, you get bereavement vacation. You're entitled to that. But by all means, do not hide it away. You have to share it with your employer. And if your employer does not want to give you that time or doesn't provide those resources, I know that I think it's CAMH, I think Canadian Association for Mental Health, they have resources on how to what's the word, how to advocate for the mental health of people in employment. How do we stay encouraged as we grow older that we can still have a great life as a senior? Yes, by attending courses such as this one, knowing the challenges that await us. You might think that you're not that old or everything, your faculties are fine, they're running like clockwork, but eventually that time will come. As we get older, we get slower, we get more forgetful. So by all means, it's time to change your lifestyle, eat healthily, cut your alcohol intake, exercise. If you're susceptible to a chronic condition, begin to take the steps to circumvent them, take the steps to adjust your diet so things do not get worse than they are already. Any more questions? How can I support a senior who feels isolated? Yeah, I think I talked about that earlier on. Offer them regular check-ins. That's very important, especially if it's a family member. Offer regular check-ins. Even if it's your next door, neighbor, offer regular check-ins and then help them connect to community program. One of the slides has a list of programs in Brant and then other parts of the province there's a wealth of programs, community programs dedicated to seniors. And then encourage participation in social or faith-based activities. Even in the church, there are activities for over 50s. By all means, encourage them to do that. Any more questions? As a senior, how do I go forward after losing a spouse? That's a hard one, and I guess there are resources out there. I did mention that they're grievance counselors, and I think they're communities. Like if you go to the community center, they're actually advertised. If you go to the community center and you check the notice board, there is information about grievance counselors, and there are also grievance counselors for the county of Brant. I think one of the slides that I shared. One second. Okay. So this one. So this one right here, in the county of Brant, we have a few. So there's the bereavement and trauma support that is provided by Stedman Community Hospice and the couch counseling. And these are the details. So if anybody wants these details, I can provide them later, or I can actually copy and paste them in the chat. And also talking to family members as well. And then if you're a family member and you have a parent or a relative that lost a loved one, lost a spouse, it's very important to show them support. They might want to be alone for a while, but, keep a respectable distance, as I'll say. Will working to 75 help mentally? I guess, I don't know. See, I guess everybody's different. There are people that are working, like I've heard of somebody who's 90 and still working as a doctor. And there are people who are 70 and they can't function. So I guess it all depends on your genetics. It depends on how well you look after yourself, how well you prepare yourself for when you get to for old age. And for people who are yet to get to that senior age, this is the time to start adopting the habits that would improve your well-being at an older age. There's nothing is guaranteed. There are people who are healthy and yet they suffer from dementia, or they suffer from chronic disease, but we can't let that stop us from taking the steps um, to be healthy and have a healthy old age and be able to contribute to society. Any more questions? Well, if there are no more questions, thank you so much for listening, and thank you for joining this three-part session on mental health awareness in seniors. And yeah, keep looking after your health, keep looking after your seniors, and wishing everybody a healthy, happy old age. How do I make new friends as a senior? By all means, join. There are lots of community groups. I shared some information about in the county of Brant. There are a couple of community groups. Mary Maxim is one. I know there's some churches. The Surgeoner Church in Paris actually has a 50+ group, and there are different groups out there. Like if you go to the community center, there's the Legion at William Street. They have a barbecue every Saturday for seniors. So, and many more that I haven't mentioned here. By all means, you have to be intentional in finding your tribe, finding a group of friends. And some people are lucky that they have friends from childhood that they're aging together with. So I guess don't be isolated. Find your people, find a group, find an interest group, volunteer. Your friends do not necessarily have to be seniors like you. You can actually have friends that are much, much younger than yourself. That even keeps one younger. Any more questions? Okay. You did not get my response to what a senior should do. Oh, I answered that. I said, if you lose your spouse at 70 or any age, see a grievance counselor by all means. Seek the support of family members, seek the support of friends. I guess not being isolated, because isolation leads to loneliness. Loneliness could lead to mental health issues. So by all means, seek the advice of a grievance counselor, lean on family and friends, seek help, even go to your doctor. If, say, you're not sleeping properly, you've lost your appetite, by all means, seek medical attention as well. I hope I've addressed your question. Ken, any more questions? All right, well, thank you so much for listening, and wishing you all a happy happy old age, should I say, or happy happy aging process. And yes, see you all at the in person. We're going to be having a couple of sessions in person and possibly some activities as well to actually facilitate or practice what we have discussed during these online presentations. So take care, everyone. Bye-bye.